Hi there, I'm Juliana Carroll, and this is my sister and partner in Coffee and Tech, Lisa Jackson. Together, we are your hosts here at the Coffee Tech Talk Show, exploring anything and everything to do with work orchestration and automation.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Coffee Tech Talk. And as usual, I am here with my sister, Juliana Carroll. Say hello, Jay.
Hello.
Today we have a very special guest with us by the name of Wade Callison. He is the Vice President of Sales at Squid. But before we talk to you, Wade, I got to do some housekeeping. That is, make sure that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Coffee Tech Talk Show. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us at connect@coffeetechtalk.show and follow us across the board on our social media sites, which are Coffee Tech Talk at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So with that said, hello, Wade. How are you today?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm good.
Good afternoon. So tell us about Squid and what it's about and what you do there.
So Squid is a low-code development platform that allows companies to build applications in the speed of business. And so rather than having to go back to your IT team and have weeks and months before the idea is realized in code, it allows development teams to build just rapidly in a few days, in a few weeks. And these are pixel-perfect applications that really help move the business forward.
So how long have you been doing that, and how did you get, to this Squid world?
So it's interesting. I moved companies in the middle of COVID. So, I accepted the offer and joined March 31st. So I've been here for basically the whole of lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting position to be like when you first starting new sales position.
I will tell you though, it's been actually really, really good, because what I found is that with Zoom and other technologies, it leveled the playing field for everyone. So again, I live in Boston. My team is in Chattanooga and all across the country, and it's difficult for us all to get together with video and with our meetings all on Zoom, all of our sales calls on Zoom. We now have a level playing field. Corona has been really bad for a lot of reasons, but also I think it's really pushed us forward in the way we interact with each other in ways that I can't go back now. When I call someone, I don't want to just hear their voice. I want to see them and I want to interact with them and I want to be able to read their body language. It's just so different. And I would have never been there. Like my kids were all on FaceTime the whole time. I'm like, what are you doing? Now I want to do this. I want to be on video. I want to be talking to someone live.
I agree with that so much, because in the past, it's before this whole thing, it's kind of like, oh gosh, I don't want to be on video. I got to brush my hair. I got to do all these. And you're kind of like, a lot of people are a little bit, gun shy when it comes to being on video.
Yeah.
But now that we're doing it, it's just like, it's second nature now. It's like, you're right. You want to see, if you can't see them in person, you want to see them at least through the screen, so you could read, each other's body languages and, strange looks, like I do sometimes.
Dogs bark and we're okay with it. And kids come into frame and we're okay with it. And I think it's made us all a little bit more personal and more human as well. Is that there used to be this sort of work facade and a personal facade, and you had these two worlds. And I think now I'm more involved in my team's lives, their kids, what they're doing, what's going on in their house. And it's just there's a bit more of authenticity that I find that we've got between us all that I don't think existed before.
What would you say yourself and what would your team say about your type of leadership? It's two different things.
No, it's interesting. I think this term is overused, but a servant leader is how I model myself at all times. I've got a selling responsibility, and we sell and we solve problems for customers. And really it's about solving problems for customers. This sales team is an extension of me in the field serving these customers. So my job isn't management, it's leadership. It's guidance, it's being there in the trenches, it's problem solving. It's really about being, I think for me, about being authentic as well. If you look after the people first, they'll look after the mission of the company.
So we probably should go a little bit about, how we know each other.
Yeah.
But I've known Wade for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
And so when we first met, I think you were more in solutions, right? You're an
I ran
architect,
product.
solutions, product, yeah.
Yeah, I ran product.
Yeah. And you ran product. So running product necessarily means that I think one of your mission at the time was understanding how people use your product.
Yep.
Right. And then
Yep.
you wanted to know what was good about the product at the time, what could be expanded of the product at a time that people would use, and then, you know, what maybe features and functionality that nobody uses, right? That kind of stuff. So you were always curious about how people use the product, right? And you were always trying to figure out what problems that they have that you can solve with your product, right? As a product manager.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I woke up one morning and you were head of sales of something.
Yeah, I always say.
And then your question was starting to be a little bit different. But the point of that is, well, you know, but the point of that is your curiosity about product and your drive to help people, you know, solve problems using a product and maybe shaping the product towards it. I think that maybe still carries through to today, no? By the sounds of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, what's funny is that, like you, my career was a lot of professional services. I started my career in professional services because the guidance I got was learn as much as you can as quickly as you can, and professional services allows you to do that. You can live like so many lives in one year by helping lots of different companies. And so I did that for a long time, and then I moved into product. And the whole time I always thought about the sales thing and was always involved in sales cycles. And then one day, about when you were saying about 8-9 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm a closeted sales guy. I really should be a sales guy. And so I decided, I went to my head of sales. I was like, hey, I want to be a sales guy. He said, can you do it? I said, I think so. He said, if you can't, I'll fire you. I said, if I can't, you should fire me, but let me have a go. And it was liberating. Once I realized that sales wasn't a 4-letter word, once I realized that I could go and have a meaningful conversation about deep subjects. And to your point, right? I mean, I met with one of my favorite conversations with a CFO at one of the big law firms in New York. And he took a courtesy call and he was going to throw me out. But he stayed and took the call, took a second meeting with me. And after that one, he said, hey, do you want to go out for wine? And like, we'll chat. And so we went out and he said, why are you
said no, right?
No,
yeah,
exactly.
Wine for you.
Yeah, no, of course not. And he said, why are you so credible? And I gave him my history. To your point, he goes, most salespeople don't have that sort of background. And so to your point, yes, it's always about solving the problem and being a problem solver for your customer and being creative. And when you do that, like, they're more than willing to buy, because again, you've solved a meaningful problem and you've helped their career. I mean, when we first met, you were my customer, and we were helping you be successful in your work. And so we've gone through a number of these, 9/11 and the impact that it's had. You look at the 2008 bank crisis, and you look at today, and they're very similar, the role that technology has had in helping businesses recover from that. I mean, we were helping the banks get through the regulation that, when you were talking to Juno the other day in the Fed, we were helping the banks get through that new regulation with technology that didn't always fit perfectly, but it was the best technology they had at the time to solve a problem. And I feel like that's, again, with Squid. Squid is in the same position, which is, in a world that's gone more digital, you need to have the right technologies to help you become and evolve into that new world. And I feel like at each of these inflection points, I've been fortunate enough to be in a company, in a place where I can help those customers and those companies sort of evolve and adapt to the new realities.
I work with large companies, right? And under heavy regulations like banks and so on. And so there's two schools of thought. You go with a very established supplier, vendor, software products, let's say. And but then in an innovation, you're looking at all this, disruptors, like a Squid, for example. And then my job was to find a solution that balances risk, innovation, and problem solving at whatever cost constraints or time constraints, right? So being in choosing something like Squid at this stage too allows you to be innovative but not totally risky. It's an interesting time for Squid, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've got two stories. So one is one of our bank customers. They're a community bank in Texas. the PPP regulation came out. And if you remember how the PPP payroll protection, the rules changed daily. Congress would meet and they changed the rules again. And yet the banks were supposed to meet those regulations and were supposed to help these corporations and businesses with payroll protection. And so in fact, a number of our banks, but one in particular, was able to use Squid to build a PPP app. And every day they changed it to adapt to what they heard that day and got it into market. It was so successful that they had corporations who weren't banking with them coming to them and say, can we submit a PPP application through you? They're like, we'd be happy to, but you need to be banking with us. And so they built a new customer flow on Squid to onboard new corporates to be able to do the PPP. And they did, I think it was like $175 million worth of PPP loans because they were able to adapt on a daily basis. To your point earlier, if you had to go write the requirements, go to IT, go to a third-party systems integrator, you'd be 3 months, 6 months down the road, and you'd have the app, and they'd be like, "Oh, sorry, it's over now," and so it'd be done. And so that ability to adapt has been so. I didn't even know you could adapt as fast as you can with Squid, and it's been eye-opening for me to see what we can do.
So, how do you motivate your sales team? You know, I know they all have different personalities, right? Especially when you're managing several people on your team, there's ways that people would feel motivated, whether it's awards, whether, you know, accolades, money. How do you determine that and motivate them?
You know, it's definitely a challenge as a leader to find what motivates each individual. For me, I think that in sales, it's more clear than in any other role how to motivate, because the scoreboard is known, the rules are known. I mean, when you look at Simon Sinek, he talks about the infinite game. Most of us play in the infinite game, which is the competitors aren't known. You don't know like what the duration of the game is, anything else. And so motivating in product management was much different than motivating in sales. So in product management, you're never quite sure if the feature you delivered was worth it, or if the messaging you delivered really hit the mark. And it was always very ambiguous. In sales, you've got a very clear scoreboard. You know wins and losses. You know attainment and where you're struggling. And so for me, it's about staying close with each individual. One of the things we did is we ran a prospecting competition, and my team, I pitted two people against each other and said, look, the ones who can make the most progress are the winner. And the loser has to have a Zoom background of the other one's choosing. So the two losers had Stone Cold Steve Austin on one. No, it was The Rock. It was The Rock who was, The Rock was one, and Tiger King was the other. And you know what? That was a fun, light way for us to build some competition. Salespeople are inherently competitive, and for us to do something and to raise the energy and the activity level. And it was a fun way to do it. And then of course, when someone shows up to a meeting with Tiger King behind them or The Rock, then it sparked a conversation and we were able to talk about what we were doing.
So what would you say would be your biggest pet peeve when it comes to your sales team?
You know, one of mine is just not listening to the customer, not being responsive. So much about sales is reading and interpreting and being situationally fluent to be able to go in with an agenda and not just bowl over the customer and not just talk over them and not talk past them. And so for me, the biggest thing that I coach on is how to make sure that we listen, make sure that we respond, make sure that we're creative in that moment, and we know our material well enough to be able to call an audible. Right? In sales, you're calling audibles all the time, and you get thrown curveballs, and you're like, how do you handle those curveballs, and how do you do that? So for me, in a sales team, I want people who can listen.
How do you pick your dream team? Like when you're hiring, what would make you hire someone versus not hiring another person? What do you look for?
I want creativity, and I want someone who's curious, and I want them to be intellectually curious. And I want them to be asking not the obvious question, but the question behind the question. And when you answer it and they stop and they look, and you can see the gears moving, and you allow that pause and that moment, and then they come back with another one. Like, that's what I want, because in the end, that's the sort of skill that you want. You want someone who has that inner drive and desire to succeed, and has a proven track record. But more than anything, I want them to be intellectually curious. I want them to be creative, because in the end, that's the way that they're going to build the right relationships and build the right solutions for the customer.
So was there ever a moment, this is something totally off the charts here, was there ever a moment where it's most embarrassing for you at work, and how did you handle that, and how did you recover?
No, let me be really honest, because this is something that was super humbling for me, and I've worked hard to be really successful. And I joined a startup, and I was enamored. And you know, when you meet someone and you feel those sparks, and you rush into a relationship, and then you get in that relationship and you're like, yeah, this relationship wasn't what I thought it was. Like,
Yeah.
I had one of those moments, and I lasted 6 months at this startup, and it was a big deal because everyone knew I had left a company that I'd been at for a long time, and I went, and it just wasn't the right fit. And in a lot of ways, it was super embarrassing, because I've never had that experience before. Like, and when I go somewhere, I'm super passionate, and I build and I do what I think are the right thing, but in the end, it wasn't the right fit. And what I realized from it is I didn't ask the right questions. I was so enamored and so sort of like that the sparks flew initially, that I didn't ask the next question. I don't think they did either. And I think that what we got into a situation where we felt like there was a fit, and there just wasn't a fit. And so for me, coming back from that, I'm like, wow, like, I've never had that experience before. And that was super humbling, and it was difficult to deal with. And it's taken a while for me to get past it. But then you start to get success again, because you doubt yourself. I mean, we all are human. We're like, maybe I'm not as capable or as this or as that as I think. And so that for me was the hardest one, but I'm much better for it.
Let's flip that a little bit. If you hired someone that you thought was going to be this amazing salesperson, right? They killed it on their interview and everything that you expected, and then here they are working for you, and then 8 weeks later, you're like, this is not who I interviewed. What do you do then?
That's one of the hardest things, because you have to separate the human side of it from the business side of it. And I don't know that I'm as good at that as I need to be, frankly. I mean, I would love to say that I would know what to do and to cut the relationship as quickly as possible. I mean, I had someone early in my career who was caustic, and I let it go a little bit too long, and I ended up having to let them go. And it turns out that their wife was pregnant with a kid who had a lot of medical issues. And we did the right thing, and we extended medical benefits and all those right things. But like, it's hard to separate the human side of, look, this person left a company, is now their livelihood is dependent upon us. But in the end, if it's not a fit, it's never going to be a fit. And if you really know that, you've got to make that decision. And I hope that in those situations, I would have the guts to do the right thing, because in the end, that person knows that it's not the right fit either. They can feel it, and it's almost better for them to make that decision and to let them move on, because we only have so many years on this earth, and only so many years that we're working. And if you waste their time and yours on a year or two of that, then they're not doing what they should be doing either.
Yeah, I think people have a hard time expressing how they want to be appreciated.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why.
But can you articulate it? Like, if I asked you, what is it that motivates you the most? Do you know? I think it's a complicated question, right? There's lots of things, but I just don't.
I don't know. I do. I know.
What?
It's, if you want to motivate me, pay me what I'm worth, number one.
Yep.
Pay me my commission on time, number two.
Yep.
And tell me that you appreciate me for the hard work that I do, because I will bust my ass every time. And if I don't feel that you appreciate that, then
I agree.
Then I won't be motivated. You know, that's my top three things. That's it.
Yep.
In sales, as VP of sales, you know, you probably have, let's say, marketing needs or projects that you need to get approved. How do you how do you get your projects approved internally? You know, how is it authorized and funded?
Yeah. So look, I come at it a little differently because this is not the way that most salespeople would go about this, but because
Mm-hmm.
I've sat in product management and product marketing, I go about projects with marketing as a partner where I'm an equal participant in the creation as opposed to asking them to do something. Rather than asking them to continue to do it, I said, look, I'll be author. I'll go seek all the input. And I went to all the different departments and put together something that they have authority. It's their document in the end, but I went and helped make that happen. And so I think for me, there's a certain amount of just doing the things that you need to get done, even if it's not your job or your role. Don't do it rogue, but say, look, I'm going rogue. Do you want to come with me? And I've used that a lot in my career. Is that like acknowledge that you're doing something that's out of your job description, but get the people to come along with you because they will follow you. The number of times people followed me because I made that statement, and they're willing to go do things that aren't part of their 8 to 5 job. They're willing to go do that for me. So that's number one. I think the second is that you just have to build the relationships so that when you do have these ideas, people are willing to come and support you on those initiatives. And you can't, and I'm bad about this. I have so many ideas of so many things I want to go get done, and you have to be judicious about picking the right ones. That one I'm not always as good at because I follow the Ray Dalio school of thinking, which is don't pick your battles, fight every one of them. I was at Bridgewater when he was writing his early versions of his manuscript in his book, and I believe in that, which is like, I don't like picking my battles. I'll fight them all, and we'll take more ground that way.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've always, people keep telling me to pick your battles, Lee. Pick your battles. It is hard, right? Because you do want to win them all, but you can't always win them all.
No,
so you have to be very selective in what you fight for. That's the way I like to put it. I am very selective in what I fight for, and I prioritize it, and maybe I'll get back to that one that I need to get back to.
Here's the thing.
You know?
I don't have to win them all, but I will fight them in a way that I will advance the cause. And so I think that, again, in my personal life, that's different. Like I'm always right, and my wife will tell you that I've never I never will admit to being wrong. But the reality is that there's all too often, like especially in business for me, it's not that I'm fighting all the battles and I'm objecting, but I'm trying to move a lot of things forward at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I think that you'll get the most done by doing that.
That's a good point. Good point. So our last question for the day, this is the big one. So
I don't want this one.
Did I say 10 million or 1 million? Okay. If your boss came to you and said, your CEO comes to you and says, Wade, I have $1 million that you can spend on any innovation or improvement in your company, what would that be and why?
So I actually wouldn't, I would go after a no go-to-market channel. I think that, I think our product team is killing it and they're crushing it and they're doing an amazing job. I think for us, the channels that we go after are how we get our product to market. And we're going direct to a lot of corporates, but I think that there's a real opportunity for us to change the way technology companies and startups are building their applications. So a good friend of mine, he worked for me at a previous company, worked with me and for me at a previous company. He and I we had a virtual lunch one day over Zoom during the middle of Corona. And we got caught up, and he had went off to be a CEO of this company. And we're just talking about how much time and money he had spent in building his company and this application, this website. And he said, so what does Squid do? And I told him, he goes, you mean I could have done all of this in 3 to 4 months that took me a year or more to do? And I just think that there's a real opportunity for us to go take and serve startups, technology companies, those that today are not thinking about the world in the right, they're thinking about the world in the sort of the old way of thinking about it, which is I code everything. And for me, I would go take that money and I would go build a new channel and a new way to get at these companies and really serve them, because the next Airbnb is going to be out there, and there's these innovative companies that if you can provide extra leverage and their dollar can go further, especially now, then you would be able to make a bigger impact in their efforts, but also then in the people that they're able to serve.
Very nice. That makes sense. I actually like that idea. That makes sense.
All right. We'll see if I pick that battle.
So if anyone has any questions for you, how can they reach you? I know you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Do you have an email or anything?
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn's probably the best way to get hold of me. I've got a large network there, and I'm always connecting with individuals, and happy to just bounce ideas off of folks too. I think that recently I joined this thing called the Revenue Collective, which was an organization for sales leaders to be able to share ideas and to build ideas. And that's, again, one of these where I like to be able to collaborate with folks. And if someone's struggling with something or wants to bounce an idea, I'm always available and happy to do that.
Revenue Collective?
Yeah, it's Revenue Collective. That's a different organization, but it's an organization that's built by sales leaders for sales leaders. And so it's an educational community, and they've got executive memberships as well as individual memberships. And so, but it's a chance for you to be like, it's not often that salespeople get to talk to other salespeople with the walls down, right? Where it's like, look, I'm dealing with this negotiation issue. Who's dealt with this? Or I'm dealing with this technology stack issue. Who's dealing with this? And so for that, that's been super helpful. But I think that those sorts of conversations we don't have enough of, right? We all have transactional conversations.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is why we did Coffee Tech Talk, right? So we're building our kind of working club, if you want to call it that, of people working in technology. So different people talk about different things in technology and how they use technology. So, it's very similar to our thought process. Who has a UI challenge, right? Or who has a virtual challenge? Who's worked on, different technology, work streams or whatever.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's this level of networking and just sharing good ideas is vital. And so for us to find ways to do that, and I love what you guys are doing here in sharing these ideas.
Okay. Hang tight 1 second. And thank you everyone for tuning in to our next episode again of Coffee Tech Talk. Thank you, Wade Callison, for being here. You guys can reach out to him on LinkedIn. And Juliana, do you have anything else for today?
No, catch up later.
Make sure you guys follow us and subscribe to Coffee Tech Talk on YouTube and all of our social media at Coffee Tech Talk. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that said, until next time.